This is going to be a video about the March 23rd tier list that came out on Reddit recently from the FE Heroes wiki. And I kind of wanted to talk about the upper tier list and an older one from March 17th before the Inheritance update went, which is here. So firstly, one of the things I want to point out was that a lot of the Kepler units have been moved up, so you can see Leo here is A, and up here he's A+. Cecilia has moved from A to A+. Olwen has moved from A, I believe, to A+, and Ursula has moved from A to A+, and Eldigan has moved from A+ to S. So, this is because of the horse emblem thing, whereby, especially the mages, like you could notice that of the units that I listed, Leo, Cecilia, and Ursula, Olwen are all mages, and they can take advantage of the Tome Blade, kind of as a general name, like the Tome Blade weapon, which is what Nino has and what Tharja has and Odin, and because cavalry units can get more stats from ally buffs, because Hone and Ward Cavalry gives you +6 instead of just the regular +4, they can actually get higher damage than the regular infantry unit, which is why they moved up. I think this is okay that they've done this, but I think that it is kind of like, you can tell that they're being influenced by what other people are saying, and I feel like wikis should kind of be made in a vacuum of what the community thinks is OP, and should just really look at the strength of the units. So another part where I think where that kind of thing pops up, like that kind of bias, is with why I think that influence kind of also explains why Erica is listed so highly. So she's S here, and she retains her S skill here. But if we go to this spreadsheet that has stats, she's got like a normal 157 base stat total, which is kind of whatever. And then she's got a kind of mediocre stat distribution, like 42 health, whatever, 26 attack is kind of subpar for being S tier. Like, if you'll notice, all the other S tier units, aside from Olivia, who I highly disagree that she is S tier, that I will talk about later, but Ryoma, Lucina, and Eldian all have pretty good attack stats. So let's just Ryoma has 64, I can't read, 34, Lucina has 34, and then the other one was Eldigan, who is down here with 32. And then somehow Erica makes it into S tier with just 26 attack, 35 speed, which is on the better side, and then 26 defense and 28 resistance. So it's like that's pretty like middling stats with a bad attack stat kind of across the board, and she still makes it into S tier on this list, which basically is because she memes really well with Nino and Tharja, because she can have Sieglind, I think it's Sieglind, maybe it's Sieglind gives +3 attack, which it works really well with Toneblade. She gives Hone speed, and then instead of pivot you can put like rally anything, and she will just be a monster of buffing your Toneblade user. And because the community, at least I'm referring to the Reddit community mostly, because the Reddit community loves Nino and loves Toneblade, she has been put into S tier, I think incorrectly. I think she should, like, I think she should be like maybe like A+ tier. I think the sword unit, I think this is just so funny because, like, obviously, I think Erica's too high, Olivia's too high, Corin is too high. Like, let's go to Corin. Oops. What have I done? Oh, because there's 2 Corins. Whoops. So Yato is like a nice. It's nice. Having unique weapons are nice. Dragon Fang is nice. And then defense and obstructor crap. But then with inheritance, you can fix that. What was his old tier? See, the other thing is that this is ridiculous. Is even in the old tier, he was still A tier, which is ridiculous because before inheritance, he was total crap. With like obstruct is crap, and then this is just a total crap A ability. We got 32 HP or 42 HP, 32 attack, 32 speed. Okay, and like decent. Like by decent, I mean like mediocre. As in, it's not terrible, but it's not great either. It's just middle of the pack. Like he basically has middle of the pack stats, maybe with a nice attack, but like. In what world do you take Corin over Lucina? Like, in no world do you take Corin over Lucina. And like, in no world do you take Corin over Marth, even. So, why exactly is he A tier? Like, of these units... Okay, so Fur is too high. That's Seliph, Roy, and Elwood. Like, okay. I think just, like... I guess it's reasonable for them to put him at A tier, but I just wonder, like, what separates him from, like, the B tier? Like, Hinata has, I think, 42 defense. Like, Hana has 40-something speed. Agma is pretty... Agma dropped from A to B tier, rip. Like, I think... Like, I feel like the wiki has this problem where, like, a lot of these units just, like, you don't see. Like, I only, like, focus on Corin because I rolled him on my free-to-play account, and so I've actually been using him. I feel like the wiki just has this problem whereby they don't, like, for one, you never see these units. I have not seen a Seliph, I haven't seen a Fair, I don't think I've seen an Eliwood or Corin actually in the arena. So it's like, how can you actually rank them if you don't see them in the arena and you don't use them yourself? So I think, like, the wiki just has a problem, because I was looking at the credits about who was doing it, and they had, like, 2 people who were working on the wiki, which, like, there's no way that those 2 people can actually cover all of these units. Like, they need just more people who use a wider variety of units, because when you get to the A and B tiers, it gets kind of, like, fishy about what really about these units. Like, Hinoka, like, I had Hinoka, and she was really bad. And I sent her home for Brave Lance for Effie. Like, why is she A tier? Katria is so much, like, Sully should be down here. I think Perry, like, I'm a little biased about Perry, but, Katria is, like, in this A tier, Katria, Sully, and Donald, I think, are much better than Hinoka, and I probably couldn't say anything really about Gwendolyn, but, like, the problem with Gwendolyn is that her main rival is Effie, and, like, why would you not take Effie? The other thing that I'm just going to generally complain about this tier list is that they have it sorted. I don't like the way they have it sorted. They just have it sorted by, like, weapon type, which seems like a natural way to do it, but I really think they ought to do it by, like, role in the game, or, like, yeah, like, role within the game. So, like, if you go to the healer tab, like, they're all B tier. If you went to this tier list and thought, man, I really want to use a healer because I want to do something fun, what healer should I use? This is totally not useful. And it's kind of hard to imagine that all of these healers are equally bad. And so, I think what they should do is they should be like, let's look at healers as a tier and rank those. Let's look at offensive sword units and rank those. So that, like, you wouldn't have to compare Crom to Lyn, because Crom to Lyn is, like, not really a good comparison, because Crom is a highly defensive unit with, like, defensive bulk. We can go look at Crom's stats over here. Like, he has a lot of HP. He has pretty good attack. He has terrible speed, but really good defense. So, like, by really good, I mean, like, he's not an armored unit, but for a non-armored unit, he's really good, and having that extra movement probably makes up for the lack of defensive here. But it's still, like, 31 is still really good. I think Effie only has, like, 31 naturally, if I recall correctly. And then 47 HP is, like, pretty good. So, like, how is it that you can compare Crom and Lyn when Lyn is, like, a high-risk, high-reward glass cannon gamble unit, and Crom is a mobile armored unit without being armored? So there should be, like, a column for offensive red units and defensive red units, and they should be, like, defensive units should be ranked against other defensive units, and offensive units should be ranked against other offensive units. And also within that, which is why I think it's ridiculous that Olivia is S tier, like, the dancers should be ranked against each other, because when you're team building, you're not thinking, oh, how do I pick between these 5 units? You're not picking between, like, Erica, Ryoma, Olivia, Eldigan, and Lucina. You're picking between Ryoma, Lyn, and Eldigan as maybe offensive red sword units. You're picking between Erica and other buffing units, like maybe Noe, or, like, Sword of Ephraim, maybe, depending on how much SP you have on him to waste. And then you're comparing Olivia to Azura, Ninian, and, just those two. Like, you're not comparing, like, it doesn't really make sense for Olivia to be listed as a red sword, because you're not actually going to be using her as a red sword unit. You're going to be using her as a dancer. And likewise, Azura, you're going to be using her as a dancer. She is not in competition with Effie. So if you look at this tier list, you might think, oh, like, Effie and Azura are top tier units, and if I have an Effie and Azura, I have to pick between the two of them for a balanced team. And, like, that's just not the case, because they don't fill the same niche, and I feel like the tier list can be kind of misleading in that way. So, that was a very long rant. So just getting back to, like, the actual, like, units. What another interesting thing that happens is that Drog goes from C tier to A+ tier, which I think is another example of this, like, kind of issue the wiki has with not having enough people discussing the units. So, like, if you weren't using Drog, you'd probably just think, oh, he's C tier, whatever, we'll just put him down there because he's terrible. And then for him to have such a drastic jump with Inheritance, like, that doesn't really make sense. Like, what did Inheritance give him that he didn't already have? Go back over here. Where is he? So he already had the Brave Sword. He had Pavis. Isn't there an E in this? I think that's a typo. Ward Armor is good. Lunge is great. Or it's not great. It's, like, whatever. But you don't have to equip it is the point. And then he's got, like, really, really pretty good stats. Like, on paper, like, he seems pretty good. Why was he C tier? And then I think what happened is that the Lunatic quest that required armored units came out, and so people started leveling up their drugs, and everyone realized, wait, actually, he's really good. And this overlapped with Skill Inheritance, and so people realized, actually, he's probably A tier. And so maybe while the drug situation was fixed, there are other units that, like, are still, that people just haven't put time into leveling, and so people don't actually know where they sit on the tier list. I think Julia might be one of those units. I think she's actually pretty good. Perry is kind of pretty good. Sheena, I think, should be higher. I've been using Sheena. I don't think she's B tier. So, I also think Felicia and Jacob should be higher than Matthew, because, reasons I'll talk about later. So, another unit that had kind of drastic movement was Gaius, who goes also from C to A. And part of this is because they just simply removed the C tier. But I think, like, I kind of wonder if they're thinking, like, oh, Gaius has Poison Strike. Poison Strike makes dagger users good. Like, let's move them up. And then you forget that if you're choosing between Gaius, Jafar, and Saizo, like, in what world do you take Gaius over Jafar or Saizo? Like, in what world do you take Saizo over Jafar? Like, I feel like Jafar should have been A+, because having the Deathly Dagger is just really good. Does this have a tab for weapons? It does. Okay, let's go look at the daggers. Okay, so here are the daggers. And Poison Dagger obviously is really OP. Rogue Dagger is bad because, like, -5. So you're sacrificing. So the kind of gold standard is a Silver Dagger, which gives the greatest debuff, which is kind of, unless, like, aside from Kagero, who is exceptional, the reason why you're using any other ninja that doesn't use Poison Dagger is because you want the debuff, the defense and res debuff. And Silver Dagger is the gold standard, and that it gives -7. Now, if you're using Rogue Dagger, you're sacrificing like a -2 on the enemy, and in return you're getting a +5. But, like, why do you want that +5? Why is that +5 good for you? It's because if you're in combat. But you are a, like, squishy dagger user, and you're probably, like, you're not going to do all that well anyways. That +5 is, like, it's good, but, like, you would much rather have the extra +2 on debuff on the enemy. And then Smoke Dagger is an AoE, which is really good, I think. Especially when we're going to get, I think people are sleeping on these debuff weapons, but that's just me. But the point is that Rogue Dagger is bad, and that's why Deathly Dagger is so good, because it has the same, like, effect as the Silver Dagger. It still debuffs -7, but then it also does 7 true non-lethal damage out of battle, which is just, like, unbelievably good. So unless you're going for Smoke Dagger, Deathly Dagger is clearly the better, like, is clearly, like, the best, aside from Kagero, best dagger out of Rogue and Silver, because it has these extra effects. So why is it that Gaius is on the same tier? I don't understand. I think, like, I don't know what happened there. That's what I'm trying to say. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was Young Tiki and Noe on the new tier list. So Young Tiki is A+, and Noe is S. And I think earlier that used to be both S, but Tiki dropped and Noe didn't. And I kind of wanted to just talk about, like, this is something I disagree with, like, because their stat distributions are pretty similar. Where can I write them? Whatever. So I'm just going to read them out, or maybe, like, put an annotation. Young Tiki has 41 HP, 31 attack, 30 speed, 32 defense, and 29 resistance for a total of 163. And Noe has 45 HP, 34 attack, 26 speed, 30 defense, 27 resistance for a total of also 163. So basically the difference is that Noe sacrifices speed to get a little bit more bulk. A little more attack and HP, whereas Young Tiki has much more speed, and then also just, like, a little bit more defense, but she's not going to hit quite as hard. And the other notable difference is that Noe starts off with the Lightning Breath, which can counter at range distance. But with Inheritance, so can Tiki, so that's no longer an issue. You also can fix Tiki's total crap special, and you can also give her, like, a rally. You can give Noe a special. So really, it kind of comes down to, like, their stats and also their coloring. So this is maybe why Noe's higher, in that she can actually deal with Falcon users. And then Tiki also has the problem of being a red unit and having to compete with other red sword users, and then also with Tharja and Lelina. And I think, like, I can see why they put Noe up, but I feel like maybe this is because I'm biased because I've been using Tiki a little bit lately, but Tiki's bulk is so strong and, like, just really impressive, that I wish, like, I feel like she didn't deserve to be demoted, and that's just, like, a thing that I disagree with. Like, they have, like, arguably as a defensive unit, like, Tiki has better stats, and if you put Swordbreaker on her, like, she probably won't die to Falcon. And I think that was, this decision to put her in A+ was maybe not super well thought out, because the differences between them aren't quite as severe. Like, the major difference being Noe is blue. Which I don't think is enough of a difference to entirely demote. See, this is where the comparison of, if you compared units by their role instead of their weapon type would be better, because you would probably put all the Manichates in the same role. Aside from Ninian, who goes in the dancer role. So, I don't know. I think that was a really interesting decision of theirs that I don't know if I super agree with. So kind of going off of my list of discussion points, Jafar should be higher, Olivia should be lower. I talked about those two. I talked about the healers being, this is just unbelievably useless. Like, why even, like, if you're going to put them all in the same tier, why even bother including this column? And then also I wanted to talk about Odin and Lonku as kind of just an interesting case that, thing that happened in the tier list. So Odin, it started off A, and then he dropped to B with skill inheritance. So somehow skill inheritance made him worse, which is interesting. I can see that if you're, in some ways you could say that Odin becomes worse because you want to send him home to give Blarblade to Lind or Ursula. But from the perspective of a tier list, that doesn't make him as a unit bad. It just makes him as a unit that you own bad. Like, his position in the meta isn't, like, if you're going to use Odin, it doesn't, like, if you've already decided to use Odin, he, like, I feel like, sorry, that was poorly worded. Your decisions to use a unit, like, your decisions of sending home units in relation to inherit skills onto other units should not affect their position in the tier list, because the position in the tier list is their abilities in the meta arena PvP stuff. It's not like an all-around tier list for units in PvE and things like that. So I think they're, like, being biased by wanting to send him home, which I think is, like, a really terrible thing to do, because now it seems like Odin is bad. Skill inheritance did not make Odin a bad unit. It just made him more valuable in other ways than using him for PvP. And then the opposite thing happened to Lonku, who was A and now is A+. And I feel like they have a very similar situation where a lot of people are sending Lonku home to get Vantage 3. But for Odin, who he's being sent home for Bloodblade, he goes down, and then Lonku goes up, which I think is just kind of inconsistent. Like, were they just sleeping on him, like with Draug, or with why has he been put in A+? I don't understand. I think it's really inconsistent of them, like, those two, to treat those two units differently. So those are just some of my thoughts about the tier list, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about the tier list and things like that, because I think it's really interesting. And for one thing, it's probably too early for a tier list to come out, but it's definitely interesting, the choices they made, and I'd love to hear what people think about it. So thanks for watching, and yeah, comment below, subscribe for more Fire Emblem content.